Good afternoon. I'm Erick Erickson, and these are your 4 things to know this afternoon, where we dissect the headlines and deliver the truth behind the stories shaping our world. First thing to know, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad is bracing for a crisis. The Jerusalem Post and the AP are reporting State Department employees have prepared an evacuation of non-essential personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, with the Pentagon on alert for potential airlifts. This isn't routine protocol. It's a response to escalating tensions with Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and beyond. The Iranian defense minister has openly threatened U.S. bases, and the State Department has authorized voluntary departures for military dependents and other Americans from Bahrain and Kuwait. This is a region on edge, and the U.S. is signaling it's not taking chances. The situation exposes the consequences of a decade of foreign policy missteps. The Obama and the Biden administration tried to appease Iran through the nuclear deal and lax enforcement of sanctions. They emboldened Tehran's proxies, who now dominate Iraq's political and military landscape. The Trump administration's return to a maximum pressure strategy is a necessary corrective, but it's not without risks. Evacuating non-essential personnel is a pragmatic move to avoid a repeat of past disasters, like what happened in Benghazi, but it also projects an image of retreat. The deeper issue is strategic. Iran's growing influence in Iraq stemmed from our failure to secure a stable pro-American government post-2003. We're now paying the price for nation-building fantasies that ignored cultural and geopolitical realities. The Trump administration needs to balance immediate safety with long-term deterrence. A show of force, perhaps redeploying assets to the region, like bringing the B-2s back, could signal resolve, but it also risks escalation. Alternatively, pulling back too far invites Iran to exploit the vacuum. The stakes are high. Iran's a linchpin for Middle East stability, and a misstep could embolden Iran further or destabilize allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia. This isn't just about an embassy. It's about whether we can still project power in a region that tests our will. The Middle East is a chessboard, and Iran is playing a long game. If we don't counter with clarity and strength, we risk losing more than just the embassy. Now, the second thing you need to know, ICE raids are moving further into California. The Los Angeles Times is reporting ICE is intensifying immigration raids in California's Central Valley, targeting undocumented workers in the agriculture sector. Farmers are sounding alarms over labor shortages. Progressive activists are decrying the operations as inhumane. This is a border crisis colliding with economic reality. It's forcing us to confront hard truths about immigration policy in the United States. Conservatives believe in the rule of law. The raids reflect a renewed commitment to enforcing those laws. But for too long, lax border security and sanctuary policies have created a de facto open border system. The Biden administration's failure to stem illegal crossings left states and industries relying on undocumented labor, particularly in agriculture, where low-wage workers pick the fruit and fill our grocery stores. The Trump administration's aggressive enforcement is a direct response, aiming to restore order and prioritize American workers. But the analysis can't stop there. The raids expose a deeper hypocrisy. The same elites who champion open borders rely on cheap labor to keep their food prices low. Farmers, many of whom lean conservative, are caught in the middle. They face labor shortages that could drive up costs or leave crops rotting in the fields. The solution isn't simple. Mass deportation is logically and economically disruptive. But amnesty rewards lawbreaking, and it incentivizes more illegal crossings. A conservative approach demands secure borders, streamline legal immigration for essential industry, and penalties for employers who exploit undocumented labor. Without reform, we're stuck in a cycle of raids, resentment, and unsolved tensions, and Congress is going to have to act. The president can't do it alone. Immigration isn't just a policy issue. It's a test of whether we can balance compassion with sovereignty, and so far, we're failing the test. Up next, China is making a rare earth gambit. The Wall Street Journal reports China is imposing a 6-month limit on its relaxed export licenses for rare earth minerals, critical components for everything from smartphones to missile systems. This is Beijing flexing its economic muscle. They control roughly 80% of the global supply of these elements. The move coincides with escalating U.S.-China trade tensions, particularly as the Trump administration pushes tariffs to counter China's economic dominance. This is a national security crisis that's just masquerading as a trade dispute. Rare earth minerals are the lifeblood of modern technology and defense systems. Our reliance on China for these materials is a self-inflicted wound, the result of decades of outsourcing, environmental regulation that crippled domestic mining, and our refusal to build alliances with other countries. Beijing's license restrictions are a calculated warning. They can choke off the supply chain at will. The Biden administration's green energy push only deepened the dependency, as electric vehicles and wind turbines require even more rare earth minerals. The Trump administration's efforts to revive American mining and reduce reliance on foreign supply chains are critical but face hurdles: regulatory red tape, environmentalist opposition, years of neglected infrastructure. Short-term, we're vulnerable to price spikes and supply disruptions, which could ripple through consumer goods and defense contracts. Long-term, we need a Manhattan Project-style initiative to secure domestic production and diversify global suppliers, including Ukraine. Anything less hands China leverage over our economy and security. It's not a coincidence China is offering to give us these minerals for cheap if we stop developing in Ukraine. China's playing a game of economic warfare. We're dangerously unprepared. Independence isn't just a slogan here. It is necessary. Lastly, and honestly, I don't care about the story, but it is news. Harvey Weinstein's been convicted during a fractured justice system and a crazy trial in New York City. Jurors in New York have found him guilty on a charge of an inappropriate sex act, but they're locked on a charge of rape, and the jurors apparently have been fighting inside the jury room. The foreman suggested he himself had been threatened. The New York Post reports of this conviction of a sex crime in his New York retrial, but the trial is going as the judge has sent the jury back to try to see if they can figure out the rape charge. Already, with just the one conviction, Weinstein faces up to 25 years in prison. Now, this is all part of a larger issue here, a justice system that's gotten very salacious, dragged these trials out. Many of the cases are actually grown sympathy for Harvey Weinstein, but also this is less a victory for justice than a snapshot of a system buckling under cultural and political pressures. Weinstein's guilt isn't in question. Decades of allegations and documented abuse make that clear, but the trial highlights a broader problem. Our justice system is too often swayed by public sentiment and media narratives. The Me Too movement exposed real abuses, but it also fueled a climate where accusations can outpace evidence. Jurors' inability to agree on the rape charge suggests doubts about the process, not necessarily innocence. Justice may be blind, rooted in facts, not feelings, but when trials become spectacles, we risk eroding trust in the system itself. The deeper issue here is also cultural. Weinstein's case reflects a Hollywood elite that prioritized power over morality, enabled by a society that looked the other way. Conservatives should champion accountability, but demand it be fair and consistent. Whether the defendant is a mogul or a nobody, anything less undermines the rule of law and fuels cynicism. The Justice Department, the justice system, the justice we all know and love, requires a system that serves truth, not headlines. That's the 4 things you need to know this afternoon before you get home. 4 stories, 1 truth. Our world demands clarity, courage, and principle. Stay vigilant, informed, and please keep the faith. I'm Erick Erickson. Have a great rest of the day.